introduced us. So the story went that Terry was looking for a business type who could give him just a little bit of help with follies. So I was that business type that apparently he was looking for at that time. Well, we met over lunch. Everybody in this room knows what he had at lunch, right? Yeah, a burger and a Budweiser. And you got to put that right little dollop of ketchup on every bite of that burger, or it wasn't good enough. He said, well, I just need a little help. You know, I got a group of people that have a lot of fun. Okay, I can do this. We made it through ticket sales in December, and we started to roll into January, and I said, what do you need from me? He goes, well, you know, we have rehearsals Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, and a production meeting on Wednesday, and I said, well, what do you need me to do? Well, you can come. I thought, whoa, I thought I was going to do a little bookkeeping and pay a bill or two. So he had a way of reeling you in, and before you knew it, you were just sucked into the whole situation, and believe me, what a situation it was. We get into the final week of Snowdown, and I'm thinking, wow, we've accomplished this. It's really just showtime. So what now? Well, Tuesdays after media, we go to Far Courts, and after the gala, we go to, and this went on, and I thought, oh my God, these people do have fun. I don't know how I'm going to keep up. Well, that was nothing compared to going to Lake Powell the first year. And I was like, whew, I'm not so sure I can do this. So my first inaugural year with this fabulous group was quite amazing. So I went from, gee, we just need somebody to pay a few bills, to my first event at Lake Powell with a group of people, which was phenomenal. I got home, and I did have to say, I need to learn how to have a little more fun in life. So honestly, that's the first thing that I can thank Terry Fiedler for, was learning how to have a little more fun in my life. So, you know, he was a great collaborator. He just had a way of pulling people into the situation and just kind of letting you go with whatever you needed to do. You know, he gave you a little task, he gave you maybe a little bit of direction, and he just let you go do your deal, unless you broke the traditions. Then he would reel you back in again. He was the stickler for the things that he felt were important to Snowdown and Follies. He felt like there was a way about doing things that were important and that we needed to stick with that. He was the king of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that was important. So I had to laugh when Bob started talking about the little yellow pads, because that was one piece of the puzzle that was very difficult for him. We hit a point where things had grown and grown and grown, and he just wasn't really sure what to do. And I said, well, what do you think? And he pulls out that drawer, and he throws about 7 of those legal pads out on the table. And he says, I don't know, what do you think? And I said, well, maybe we need to get a little more organized than that. And so hence we moved forward into databases, which Bob Sauer transferred from one computer to another for decades, until he finally just said, we're just going to have to print it and pray it prints. And sure enough, it did. That team spent many a nights at the Orr House, or at one of those big round tables behind Francisco's. And Terry would quietly run the meeting. He'd have one Budweiser, so absolutely one. God only knows how many he had afterwards. If we were at the Orr House, a Garbo went home with him. If he was at Francisco's, I assumed he probably wandered by the Orr House and picked up one of those potatoes before he went home. So one other thing that he was really famous with is that we'd all get to talking as what can happen, and he just put out this extremely loud, quiet. If it's important enough to say, everybody needs to hear it. And wasn't that the truth? So it was a joy to deal with him in those many meetings. And I was really fortunate in that in 1995, Terry and I were elected or accepted into the Leadership La Plata class. And that was a huge turning point in our relationship. That adventure has a way of undressing you, I'll call it. You bring to the table a whole different relationship. It was no longer just about Snowdown. It was about who we were in the community and our leadership roles, who we were with respect to our families and how life treated us. I was so grateful to get a chance to see that side of Terry and him to see that side of me. It was my opportunity to get to know how proud he was of his children and how much they meant to him when it was all said and done. It was when I finally unfolded why he went to Denver off and on and wouldn't really talk about why he was going there, but he was going to see your mom. It was going up there, and as the years unfolded, he put her on wait list after wait list after wait list to get her moved into the Four Corners area so that he could see her more regularly. Amy was on the East Coast, and Eric was in China, and it was important for him to see her on a regular basis, and that spoke a lot about the man. To tell you that, like he said, it's the mother of my children. Why else would I do this? And so in the later times when we were encouraging him not to drive, that was something that was extremely important to him. So I made several trips to Pagosa after he was able to move Carol to Pagosa so that he could go see her, because he just felt like that was something he had to do. Bob and I have fond memories of ticket issuances. So we sat in anticipation of how long will it take Terry to use the F word. Not only the F word, but that pencil went down on the table and he would just, So you knew he had made a mistake and he was going back with that eraser. Thank God Bob knew for all those years to bring those number 2s in, because there was going to be a mistake when it was all said and done. But mind you, he wasn't necessarily really fond of that word. When it came to follies, as Tim had said this morning, he felt like, it has a very special place. And for him, that special place was during ticket issuances. And he certainly felt free to use it then. So Terry was a fun individual to get to know. I am so pleased to have had that opportunity. He had this ability to wander Main Street to do business. That was his favorite thing to do. He always chose to live in town or close into town because it was his way to keep touch and pulse on the community that he loves so much. I can't even count the times that I would run into him and he'd say, "How you be?" I think each of you have seen that. It wasn't "How are you?" It was just what he said, and you knew he genuinely wanted to know. That's the kind of connection and people person that he was. I was so glad I was that final business piece that he was looking for. I just can't imagine what life would have been like in the last 30 years in Durango, having not been a part of this group of people and been a part of his life. There's no doubt about it. Funny how things can come full circle. The chamber that hired him to shepherd this event and Winter Festival also came to honor him in 2012 as an outstanding contributor to the community. A lot had happened in those 30 years. In those later days, it was that same community that came to keep the pulse on him. And are we lucky that we live in such a place that when we give, it comes back. And he was a give sort of person. And thank goodness it had an opportunity to come back to him so that he could stay here and enjoy what he loved so much in those latter times. Amy, I can't imagine what you and the family went through in those last few years. We saw what this disease robbed him of, even in the time that he was with us. But we understood that it was good to have him here. Yet, Alzheimer's robbed him in those final years, but if you look back in the laughs that we've had and the pictures that we've painted, what a life this man has had. A lot of fun coupled with deep, hard work. He impacted many of us along the way. I cherished my time with him. I can't imagine what it would have been like without him. I'm deeply moved to have been a part of his life, and I will miss him dearly.